We are live here at Exalted Funeral Con 2022. I know what you rolled last summer here at the Exalted Funeral Digital Camp on Gather. My name is Tony Vicenda. I'm Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP, which is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. And we are super excited to be partnering with Exalted Funeral for EFCon and specifically the main stage content. So we'll be streaming for most of the weekend, actual plays, panels. And tonight we're sitting down with two people who I actually had never talked to in person until this year. Kristen, even in the last week, though I've sent a number of emails back and forth with, message back and forth with on Discord, and I'm a huge fan of the work that they do. It's Matt and Kristen Kelley, who are the owners and operators. You guys can say what your actual titles and stuff are for Exalted Funeral. Thanks for having me be a partner with y'all on this event, for all the great things you do for the community. Why don't you tell people who you are and a little bit about yourselves? Let's start with you, Kristen.
Hey guys, so thank you, Tony, for that very nice introduction. I feel like when you say that, I'm like, this is me like working like in the shadows, not interacting with anybody, which is pretty much what I feel sometimes like I'm doing. You know, you ask for our titles. Matt and I are obviously co-owners, but there's so many hats that we wear. Sometimes I call myself the copy and paste manager. I get a lot of like
copy and paste queen,
menial work, but I mean, we do, you know, we've brought on more and more a team to help with a lot of things, but between the two of us from the very beginning, we've both shared a lot of different responsibilities as Exalted Funeral has grown.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about that, Matt. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how Exalted Funeral got started? Like, I think probably if I'd asked you a few years ago if this weekend would be happening, it may or may not have been on your, you know, your Gantt chart at that point in time, or any vision. Tell us a little bit about how y'all got started.
Yeah. Thank you as well, Tony. That was very, very lovely, very silver tongued the way you, introduced us. Is beautiful. It got started out of, the reality is, out of a little bit of desperation. I had two kids And I started to worry that with my day job, I wasn't going to be able to, get them a used Scion TC like we had promised, that they needed a used car in the future. Little did I know that, they won't need gasoline in the future, but they, it was just one of those things. You have kids and you start getting worried, and, I was like, well, I think I'll just start a side business. And it started out as just like me sort of hawking wares on Instagram. We didn't even have a full page, full website. We did a little bit, but it had, I think, maybe 10 items, and items were coming in and going out, and it was just very small. And we, it's one of those things that snowballed. We didn't really anticipate it getting so big so quickly. We always had plans. You make like a 5-year plan or 3-year, 2-year plan, and then each quarter you're like, oh man,
a new 5-year plan.
Yeah, my 5-year plan just got crushed in 8 months. That was, I guess I got to figure something else out. And so it's just, it was born out of just trying to make a little extra money on the side. I thought it was a good idea. It's something that I didn't see too many people doing, or at least at all, really. I loved all the games. A big part of it was I was lurking around in the G Plus days. I was around in that, and I saw all the creators interacting, and I saw the people talking to each other and trying to get things made and doing collaborations. And I always thought that was like super cool. You never saw that with larger companies. You never saw, and I mean, that's how it is in any sort of field. The people's passions really shown, in that stage, and they always sort of do it, whether it be like music, movies, any sort of art form. There's always a bit more passion in it. And so I saw people doing that, but they didn't have an outlet. And that's always the struggle in anything. There's never an outlet. Where does it go? How does it get to people? And probably it wasn't the very first thing, but it was one of the first things that I had tried to acquire was Sean Mccoy's Mothership. And I had reached out to Sean because he was kind of peddling it at shows, at cons, in real life cons. He was they had their games like Two Rooms and a Boom and some of those other larger board games that were doing well, and it was more like a secret. It's like, here's my Mothership pamphlet, my Mothership horror, and people were like, and then I saw the PDF and I saw how good it was, and I told him that, and this is all on like just straight up just blindly messaging him. He didn't know me from anybody, and I was like, dude, this is going to win a bunch of awards. This is really good. Can I have 10 copies, please?
This is so good. I love it. It's my favorite thing ever. I would like to purchase 10. Biggest sale of Mothership to that point. Also, too, probably.
Yeah, it's true. And I was like, I would love to have 10, please. And gone. And it was, all of a sudden I was picking up items from a lot of international people, creators. They had an even bigger struggle. There was shipping was incredibly brutal for nearly anyone trying to get material across. Not only unreliable, but it wasn't even worth their time. And a lot of creators, it wasn't worth their time. They wanted to make things. They didn't want to pack and ship things.
Right.
They didn't want to organize things. They didn't, that's held little reward for them. And so I just saw a need for that, and I was like, let's try it. And it got huge. It was just crazy. It was me, and then I got overwhelmed, and then I brought on Kristen. I was like, Kristen,
Oh no, Matt died. There we go. He's back.
Oh, it wasn't like any official. Kristen was helping in mostly an unofficial capacity when I was overwhelmed.
No, I know,
So
I know that
the
conversation. It's I'm drowning and you don't ever see me because I'm doing this. Do this with me so at least I can see you.
So then she dove into drown as well.
That's right.
Well, I was still working full time too, so I would work full time. And then when I came home, I was a retail manager, which you guys know how the hours go with that. So like sometimes I get home at 9, 10, 12 o'clock at night, and then I would pack orders, hand draw labels, my days off, I would catch up on orders, and all of that, and but then, as Matt was saying, it just kept growing.
Just got bigger and bigger.
Well, that's the thing. Like the first year y'all existed in some capacity. Like how many zines or how many games and products did y'all put out that first year? About
like ship?
No, just total titles. Like how many titles did you put out or product SKUs?
I mean, so we started later in the year, so I'd probably only say like 30, 40.
As opposed to that's what you put out yesterday.
Yeah, that's what we put.
2022.
It was probably
as far as like our own titles go, we weren't there yet. We were just a retail store. But yeah, so everything we had could fit on like within one bookshelf, Yeah. And then we went from that to having our
only
garage full of pamphlets. Yeah. And then soon we didn't have a dining room anymore. This is like thing I always talk to people about is there was someone we were interacting with and it was a creator and they were like, I'm just a small guy. I'm not like Exalted Funeral with dozens of employees. And it was only Matt and I was like, hey, tell this guy I had to wipe macaroni and cheese off the table before I could start packing people's orders, but that was the reality of it, was that like everything was done out of our house, and I would handwrite labels. And then we got to the point where we're like, man, we need this label printer. This is not working, and then it was just like this, like every, like, we said like every month, every quarter, we would like, okay, let's progress. And now we need to figure out how to do this. And then it got to a point where I quit my full-time job and then I got a part-time job. So I was doing part-time and then I was doing Exalted Funeral full-time all the time, the other times. And then then I was able to go full-time completely with Exalted Funeral. So,
and let's talk about staffing too, because it's not like there's that transition for you, but then there's also the transition from it's just us to we have a team also, and how do we manage people and what does that look like and who do we need? Because it was, even when you moved things out, it was like part-time and freelance and a lot of people. But this last year and a half, y'all have been able to bring on a lot of staff members. So let's talk a little bit about who are some of the people, like, we always know like, hey, there's Exalted Funeral and people think, think about any game company, any small press company, and people oftentimes see what they do and they think there must be hundreds of people working on that. And in the community, there kind of are. Like there's a lot of people whose games you publish in the community, but that's not who's actually helping make a lot of the things happen. Let's talk about some of those shifts. Who are some of the people y'all brought on who have been really key in helping EF grow?
Yeah, there's there's a lot really, it's kind of cliche when you want to talk about these things, but at very first, Kristen is one of the first people to really say it's a good idea, keep doing it. There was like
someone wanted to buy us for like $10,000 or something in the first.
And I was like,
this
is awesome.
Matt was like, I should do it. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea.
He's like, no. That's why we've been successful. Thank you, Kristen. No.
No problem.
But there's a lot of people, and Kristen was like, you should do it, because I was still also working a job when we first started, Exalted Funeral, and it became all engrossing. And admittedly, it came to a point where it was either that job or Exalted Funeral. And I chose Exalted Funeral every time, when it came to getting in touch with creators, getting in touch with printers, getting into, making sure that we had all the materials we needed, getting things packed, that. And so my other job increasingly became and made that. But part of it was Kristen was like, just do it, like take the dive. And then on top of that, people that were really instrumental right at the beginning were Fiona and Jarrett of Moonrat. Well, and both have been employees, and one is still Jarrett, who put on this con.
Yeah, I was trying to get Jarrett to be up here with us, and conveniently had to go get his hands manicured right around this time.
Yeah, he's instrumental in getting this done, because he was really one to push it. And even then, when it came time, there was a lot of logistical things that I couldn't handle myself anymore. And so, you know, Fiona took on purchasing, and she did a super awesome job. And Jarrett was doing, you know, he was also working super hard, doing 1,000 hats as well. While
technically project management, but
I mean, at that point, it was
so
like everybody was doing something out of the scope. And, you know, but they brought in something that a professionalism, especially on the back end side, because we were able to create a workflow with them that would be like, okay, we got editing, we got layout, we got design, you know, we were able to codify some of these SOPs, and that stuff wouldn't have been done without the two of them, you know, because they were both working in a very, they were very busy as editors, but they also had, you know, everything was scrambled, you know, it was like start now, start no, okay, bang, bing, bang, boom, all over the place. Other people that were very instrumental too was I already mentioned, like Sean Mccoy. Me and Sean talked endlessly and all over the place, scheming about all sorts of things, talking about where Tuesday Night and Mothership will go, how we can help. Same with Daniel at Milsonia. I would do the same things. There was a fairly scary juncture, a real difficult one where, you know, we have to purchase more than 10 copies of Mothership, you know, and so, but we would have to do that. But, you know, Sean and Daniel, they both really put a lot of trust in me, a dude they've never met before, that they only spoke to maybe one time on the internet and then another time in a phone call, you know, and that was a very humbling experience to have someone be like, yeah, you can take these thousands of copies and sell them, you know, and like, we're going to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, you know, because eventually Sean just wanted to stop sending me packs of 10 and 25. He's like, please just take more than that. You're selling way more than I can deal with. So
yeah, we're like, he's like, can you accept pallets? I mean, Matt will say, we always say yes to everything. So
yes,
we'd be like, who needs garage space? There's just all pallets.
Yeah, we're at home anyway. And so, and a couple of creators that were very, very important were both Luca and Gavin. Obviously, Luca coming to us was a big turning point, turning us into a publisher, and that kind of opened the floodgate for what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was a super scary challenge because, you know, Luca had a big crowd, but he didn't really know what a crowdfunding, you know, platform would be like for him, like a Kickstarter. And plus he was in South Korea, so it was very difficult for him to manage any of the day-to-day back end. He couldn't do any of that. So he put a lot of trust in us as well. We spent like months getting everything ready to go and, you know, doing, and of course UVG was huge. And then same thing with Gavin, you know, it was sort of a precipice for both of those brands where they wanted to take another step and they wanted to take it with us. And so that was also very kind of them to want to do that, you know? And so those at the very early stages, and, you know, and the rest of our team, I already mentioned Jarrett, who's working with us. There's also Ben, Justin of Severed Books works with us, Beckett Warren of Weird Realms. You know, we have all those guys that come to help us, you know, help us with these holes that were very rapidly getting larger as we grew larger. And so, you know, we needed more purchasing, we needed more wholesale, we needed all that stuff. And we actually just hired a newer employee as well, a friend of mine from about 100 years ago, Louis Puster III. I went to school with him, and he actually was there at the beginning of the whole thing as well. He would give me a bunch of advice because I was like, hey, I don't know if this is a good idea. And he's like, it's great, man. He do it. You know, that's all. He's like, he was very, very supportive. And now he's back, and now he's on the team, you know, full time as well. So
you can't forget about in the back there, Mr. David Hoskins.
Oh, I can't forget David Hoskins. Poor David Hoskins. He deserves like a super medal because every time I need something, I'm like, Dave, can you do this? And he's like, yes.
He's like an unofficial employee before he was an actual employee, because we would be like some panic, like we need to design for something, and Matt will be like, I'll call Haskins. He'll help us, and he really always did.
And
he's
like,
so
I don't know how to do layout. And I'm like, sure you do, buddy. You got it. Here, you can do it. And so, yeah, Dave Hoskins, like, oh man. And I mean, and if nobody here knows who Dave Hoskins is, at this point, he's one of the best artists that you could ever hire. He did the box sets for OSC, the new ones. It's gorgeous. I get really jealous because he goes and works on all these wonderful things, and I'm like, oh God, it's great, dude. Like when I saw Acid Death Fantasy, I wanted to throw my computer because of how beautiful it was. And I was like, Daniel, Kelley, but no, Daniel, Dave, why? But he does so much, poor guy. And I would kind of say those are a lot of the people that really, from then to now, and trying to list all the creators we've worked with.
Yeah.
There's, I couldn't even do it. All of a sudden, I mean, a ton of them are in the crowd. Most of them are the crowd. We got connected with so many different people, and so many just like, who agreed to do wholesale. Some of these people had stores already, that were like, what are you doing? Like, and I'm like, I'm just trying this, and it worked. But there's just so many more people even after all those, but that's a short list. That's a really long-winded too. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, like,
Kristen, would you like to add anything?
I think you got everybody. It's true. Like, there's so many creators that have trusted us to fulfill their Kickstarter, to have us carry their items in the store, and to have us make their books, partner with us to do it, and it's pretty humbling, actually, like, and it's amazing to think how many people we interact with and talk to and have become friends with, just through Exalted Funeral and doing all of that.
Well, that's a little bit about the past, a little bit about the present. We're going to be playing, if you want to see more of those staff members, I'm going to be GMing a staff game of iToaster, my Exalted Funeral product, on Sunday afternoon here on stream with the folks also. So come back and meet some more of the staff for that. But let's look a little bit at the future. Let's start with you, Kristen. As y'all kind of think about where you were, where you've gone, how things have grown, again, like I said, a lot of this probably was not on the development chart, especially when you have the just say yes mentality and things have grown the way they have. What are some of the things y'all are hoping for from the future? Like again, none of this is obligating you to anything at any point in time. But just in your wildest dreams, what are some of the places you would really love to see Exalted Funeral as a company and the community of creators and customers and players and GMs that surround it? Where are some of the things you would hope for in that community or see going forward?
I don't know how many of our EU and UK customers are in the audience right now, but I'm going to say absolutely getting the EU and UK store squared away. We have so much stock over there, and we would really love to make it available to everybody on that side of the world, and to make it more shipping friendly for you. It has proven to be exponentially more complicated than either one of us anticipated. So in the short term, that is definitely something that's on the list. We mentioned we have more staff this year than we ever have had any other year. So we have a lot of plans in place to get everyone really organized and enroll. So a lot of things are moving a lot smoother. Matt and I have worn a lot of hats, and I'd really love to take some of those off and give them away. So the ones I'm wearing, I'm doing a better job of wearing them. And so I think that, we have some really exciting projects coming up, some pretty big titles, some pretty big properties that we'll be really excited to reveal to everybody.
And you're going to do it right now? You're going to tell us all about all of them? Oh, dang it.
Okay, let me just send you the NDA, everyone, and then we can
Everybody sign the NDA. Internet, you just stop listening for a minute.
Just like hold up your pinky, and then I'll hold up my pinky. And I mean, you know, creators reach out to us to partner, and they're like, yeah, when are you thinking about running this Kickstarter? You know, like, well, we're thinking like maybe a month or two, you know, and we're like, yeah, we're like into late 2023, you know, this might be need to be a 2024 thing. So we absolutely have plans for direct to print titles in the next 2 years. We have plans for Kickstarters, backer crowdfunding, any crowdfunding titles, and just some pretty exciting collaborations. But I think just, you know, getting processes in place on our end that make everything run smoother, that make our response time quicker, especially with creators. And you know, just trying to make it all run smoother. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of exciting stuff coming up. And
larger than, you know, or broader than what she said, Kristen said very specific things. I think one of the things that, you know, we never really had like a proper mission statement, but one of the biggest things I always wanted to have was, you know, harking back to how G+ was, where there was a connectivity between creator and customer and fan. And then sometimes that all blended together, is that growing that audience, having that be a bigger thing, showing a wider audience how great independent gaming can be, how great a lot of these titles can be, how great a zine can be for someone, you know. One of the biggest things that we had a really big win is how we've had our zines now available for wider distribution through our distribution company, which is something that when we were talked to them at first, they were like, no, you know, we're not carrying zines. And then they're like, please give us all your zines. Jarrett and Beckett went and did, you know, they went to basically like a convention for this distributor, and, you know, they were super awesome, you know, and they were very responsive after they saw everything. And I think growing just the fan base, making what people do bigger. That's what I really like doing, is giving, you know, sometimes I think certain people feel like maybe their project's too small or something. And I don't think that's the case. You know, it's always about the quality of it. Let's make it bigger. Let's give it the treatment, you know. And I hope that and that sounds so stupid if I say it out loud, but I'm like, let's give it the EF treatment. Sound like Lloyd Kaufman or something. Like, but, you know,
I mean, I did tell y'all when we were in our meeting, I did tell y'all that because of the relationship between creator and consumer, that I wanted this keynote to have a strong multi-level marketing conference energy to it. So
you know,
you got to bring it.
Just to piggyback on what you were just saying, Matt, like if you think about it, like some of these creators, like who only had their PDFs on itch less than a year ago, are now having their zines like presented to a national distributor, and they can go to their game shop, and most game shops have a relationship with this distributor, and say like, hey, like, I'm the author, could you order this in? Or their friends, or you just randomly walk into a shop and there are zines on the shelf, which is crazy. Like it's pretty cool. And that's like the thing that, you know, we want to, something that's been really important to Matt and I from the very beginning was like being fair, you know, like creating like a relationship with creators where, you know, we didn't create this. We're your partner in it. You know, we don't want to take any more from you than what, you know, you deserve to have as much in this as we do. You know what I mean? And so like, I think that's just like, that's awesome. You could go within 6 months of having like your PDF only to then having your zine in your local shop. So.
No, I love it. It's been great to see like, Irene, who is Space Job over on TikTok, who's down at Gigabytes in Atlanta. They just got in their first order from the distributor of all the different Exalted Funeral zines, and like sent me a picture because iToaster was in it, but like just like 12 titles they would not have had in stock otherwise. 12 creators who all of a sudden were in a store, and that's a huge thing. It's a super exciting thing. I know that it was a huge development, and it was a real shift because there has been that reticence. And Exalted Funeral, not only internally what y'all are doing, but creating that wedge to game stores of we'll think about different formats, we will carry zines. That broadens things for the entire creator community, even people whose titles y'all aren't carrying yet. And that's such a huge thing y'all are helping lead the way on. So it's a really, really amazing thing. I just want to give you all a little bit of a chance. Is there, whether it's this weekend, whether it's, over the course of the next year when they're sitting down to play the games, is there something y'all would love to tell folks here about EF, and then something about your story that's important to you that maybe people don't know, or just maybe your hopes for them as a player? Anything y'all want to add to that?
Did Matt freeze?
Nope, I was just waiting.
Oh, was that Matt was like punking me? He's like, It's all on you, Kristen, because you froze.
No, the convention itself came about in a very weird way, mostly from Discord being like, we should all go and see where Matt lives, because once everyone found out where we were from and how I told them what it was like, they're like, wait, there's goat roping inside a bar? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, we have to have a convention there. And I was like, I don't think it's not as romanticized as you think. It's not like an old Clint Eastwood movie. It's actually worse. It's like a Clint Eastwood now. But when Jarrett proposed this, it was something that we wanted to do. We had we were supposed to go to GaryCon. It got canceled, unfortunately, from our end. I was worried about sending everybody out basically to their doom, is how I felt. There was like another wave of the virus, and I was like, I just can't in good conscience send like 8 people out, so and after that, it was kind of a bummer. And Jarrett's very, very con savvy. He goes to a lot of cons, and he was like, why don't we do, everybody wants this. And I was like, man, if you have the gumption, let's do it. And once it started coming together, he got with Tony, and Tony and him really spearheaded and pulled this all together. And we had no idea that it was going to be as successful as it is right now. I know I feel like I just say that all the time. I had no idea, but the community, like, getting together is super awesome. Just us being able to chat is super great. But on top of that, we're going to get to play everybody's games. You're going to get to have all these cool panels. When I reached out to a bunch of the creators about the panels, they were so excited. They're like, oh, this is so radical. And that was just a very surreal experience too, and my hope is that what everybody gets out of this, and what, is a better connectivity with the community, is that, strengthening those bonds and being able to play with maybe some of the creators or friends that you've chatted with that you don't get to see all the time, or do some of these games, or hear how these are made. It's not every day that you get to hear, Diojo coming in and talking about his stuff, and so that's going to be super cool to hear him talk about like all his games, his process. And and not just him, but all the people that are involved. You'll get to have all this connectivity with him. It's super cool. And just, I hope that everybody gets to connect in the way they want, they can at this. So
yeah, we were talking about this right before we went live, but I would encourage people, regardless of what you're here to do this weekend, like, show up at the things you want to show up at. Remember, a lot of the panels and stuff are going to be recorded. You can always catch them later, because some of them are also happening simultaneously. We're trying to capture everything we can for that to be on the channel. But one of my favorite parts so far has just been the hallway conversations. Like, just everybody dancing to Limp Bizkit, me having to kick Matt out of the help booth because he was talking about third-party Shopify apps for 15 minutes while people were trying to get through. All those different things. But the fact that those conversations are happening which a lot of online conversations, a lot of online cons and events, they don't. For those of y'all who don't know, like Exalted Funeral really has invested in this event. The cost of a ticket is basically the cost that it takes for people to be on Gather, not for all the other stuff. This is not like Matt and Kristen have not asked me to say this, but like there's an investment happening here that really is an investment in the community. That is one of the reasons why whenever Jarrett or somebody on the EF team or an EF creator is like, hey, can I do X on plus one? I'm always, like, hands down, yes. How can I support what you're doing? If you're an EF creator or if you're part of the Exalted Funeral clan, like I want to help support that just because I love watching y'all invest in this community in a way that is self-aware, that isn't like weirdly parasocial and manipulative, but is very, very giving and honest and sincere. And so the ability to sit and talk with both of y'all during this time has been great. Y'all have two kids who I'm sure are like in some other corner of the house, burning things down potentially, or just punching each other, one of the two, because I have 4 kids and I know what it's like.
They're probably both of those things.
Probably
like
both.
One
of those
hand
things.
is punching, the other one is holding something that is on fire.
Awesome. I know y'all will be in and out over the course of the weekend, so people can tag you in a conversation. Y'all may be in and out of games, but thank you everybody for being here. Did Jarrett ever make it back? Can we get Jarrett to come up here? Can we everybody type emojis and hit F until Jarrett comes up on stage if he's here? I don't know if he's going to come up or not. Jarrett, come up here if you're in the room, because I can't bounce to one more screen if I need to. If he's not, that's fine. We'll keep on going. But I want to give him a chance to get up here. No, but I'm really excited just to see all the great things. Can't wait to see what the next year comes. I am going to ask one last question, maybe just for people who are here, while we wait to see if we can peer pressure him into coming up. You talked about a lot of different titles. There's been a lot of big successes in the community. For people who might be a creator here, somebody who's thinking about getting into their first game, I think Charles said it best, like quoting Matt, I'm gonna EF it up, is a very good statement. Who's thinking about partnering with y'all? What's one of the things they can keep in mind as they dream about their $1 million Kickstarter with Exalted Funeral one day? Going from just approaching y'all to talking about y'all, what's something you would encourage them to keep in mind?
Don't be scared. That's we get a lot of sometimes we get creators that are like, oh, I didn't really want to approach you with it, and I'm like, but why? I'm like, it's super cool. Come to us with it. We have, our team. We all love tabletop gaming. We love games. I love independent gaming. That's the whole reason we did this. And sometimes I get a lot of creators that have a almost strange fear, that I don't know if it's. I had someone say they didn't think it was good enough to be on Exalted Funeral one time, and I was like, I think it's really great. I want it on Exalted Funeral. I want to publish this, and they're like, really? So don't think that you're ever like too small, or that it's like, your idea might be too basic. Fear is the mind killer. Put your hand in the box. So, and by that I mean send us the email, and so start the conversation. That's really what it is. And because if you don't put that foot forward, you don't walk forward. So just don't be scared. That's why we have this entire team, is to help with the process. There's going to be things that you don't know. There's going to be things that we, will learn together, that we'll grind this out. That's what I want Exalted Funeral to separate itself from other publishers. I don't want to just have like these hard no's or, these rejections. I want people to be able to come to us and us, talk about the project. And even if maybe you end up not doing it with us, we've done a ton of times where, I've highlighted Kickstarters that's not ours. I'll tweet something, I'll help out. That's what it's about. It's not all about just like me, I like working with everybody, and I think it's fun. It's part of like what we made like the sale fun, working with Spear Witch to make a real dumb title that, everybody wants. That's what it is, super cool, and I've had people ask me like, oh, that's like a competitor, well, I don't know, that's not a competitor, and I don't look at you as a competitor. You know, if you need help with something or a question, I can answer. You know, I'm not like a dude who's going to charge you for Kickstarter advice. If you want to come with us and use us, great. If not, if you want to take that advice and do it, cool too, man. Like, then we'll get it when we can purchase it at wholesale. You know, like there's options, and just don't be scared. Don't be scared to make your title. Don't be scared to make your game. Don't be scared to put it out there.
Awesome. Love it. Well, we didn't successfully bully Jared into coming up here. Jared will be around all weekend long. And if you want to send an email, send it to projects@exaltedfuneral.com, which Jared will respond to. But thank you all both for being here. Thank you again for investing in this time, for taking some time for both of you to be able to come on to let people see you, hear a little bit more about your story. Very excited to spend the rest of the weekend here with the community. If you're out there watching on stream right now and you still want to hop into the convention, you can go to ttrpg.link/EFCon22. Hop in. We're going to be playing games all day long. Tomorrow we'll get you squared away in the morning. We'll send out information again. So for people who buy tickets late, you'll have login information bright and early in the morning. We will have all of our main stage content going out on stream. So that's 3 panels tomorrow at least, and 2 actual plays. But we've got other stuff that's happening just exclusively here inside the community, along with the other great things happening on Sunday. A lot of that content, if it's recorded, will go up and be housed, but games are just here for the people playing them unless they were exclusively set to be streamed. Thanks everybody who's here with us live right now. Let's see another round of emojis and confettis. And we'll see you all next time here on Plus One EXP, live from Exalted Funeral Con.
I'm going to disappear.
Thank you, everybody. Yes. Thank you guys for listening to Matt and I ramble on. We really